I'm Michelle, a woman who's already turned 70. My husband passed away from a stroke 10 years ago. He left this world so suddenly, it was truly heartbreaking. While I was so depressed that I couldn't even eat right, my son and his wife were banking on his life insurance payout. All right, time to collect old man's life insurance. But the insurance payout was set to be transferred to me, so I told them I wasn't going to hand it over to them. Then my daughter-in-law started yelling at me. What? You don't even need that much money. I'm the one who's going to make use of it, so give it to me now. No, I won't give it to you. You're such a stubborn and annoying old lady. Seriously, you're pissing me off. Ugh, I can't stand you. We live together, so this situation is causing me more stress. Often when married couples move in with their parents, it's the daughter-in-law that gets stressed from living with their in-laws. But my daughter-in-law, Alicia, is pretty self-centered and she's awful to elderly people. Whenever she's irritated, she likes to take her anger out on me. Also, I found out later that Alicia was quite a troublemaker in the past. My son always complains and acts high and mighty, but Alicia is even worse. She's quick to run her mouth and is always defiant. My son seems to be walking on eggshells around her, and he doesn't even ask her to fix her attitude. Although he's my son, it's pitiful and it brings tears to my eyes. Before I knew it, years had passed, and I remembered these incidents from the past. My son and his wife were now in their mid-40s. One day, I went out by myself. However, I got hit by a motorcycle. Ah! Ouch! Ah! Someone help me! I was taken to the hospital and barely survived. But because I'm old, the doctor told me it'll probably be difficult to walk on my own ever again. That's because I had also fractured my pelvis, and so I now needed constant care. Since I can't walk freely anymore, I have no other choice but to use a cane or wheelchair. This brought me to tears. Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? However, we actually have a maid at home, so I was able to get her to do the household chores. Alicia, my daughter-in-law, had an attitude even with our maid, and she bossed her around. Bring me my tea, quick! What's taking you so long? Gosh, you're so useless. I'm sorry. You better put in work that's worth the money my husband pays you. If I catch you slacking off, I'm telling on you. Yes, ma'am. I was disgusted with my daughter-in-law's behavior and apologized to the housekeepers on her behalf. Although they smiled and said it was fine, I'm sure they must have been enraged deep down. I genuinely felt bad. Our maids did the cleaning, cooking, and even went grocery shopping for us. They would also take care of our garden. Thank you for everything, but it's hot today, so you don't have to weed the garden. No, it's almost done. One of the maids, Hannah, had been dedicated to this house for a long time. She is a veteran with the most experience, about 60 years old. She's considerate, hardworking, and responsible, which is why she's respected by her younger colleagues. Alicia was particularly cold towards Hannah. Hey, what are you two old ladies chatting about? Just hurry up and wipe the table. Yes. This is why I can't stand old people. Slow as hell. I'm gonna complain about you to my husband. I'm so sorry. Alicia would give orders to Hannah in a condescending tone. I felt bad for Hannah, and I apologized to her many times about my daughter-in-law. Hannah even tried to help me when I went to the bathroom, but caregiving tasks like these are not even part of her job. So I thought about hiring a home care helper. When I mentioned it to my son and his wife, Alicia made a stern face. Huh? We don't need a home care helper. I don't even want one coming around here. But just have our maids do it. You think my husband is gonna pay for a helper? Yeah, I'm not paying for a helper. No, I'm not asking you to pay for it. I'll pay. What? What did you just say? Stop mumbling. You're a freeloader, so don't you dare run your mouth. Excuse me? Alicia was laughing with a truly nasty expression on her face. That's when I decided to talk back a little. Why are you always against me? You're being rude. You could at least listen to what I have to say. Huh? Who are you to talk? Shut up. If you want to complain so bad, then go to a retirement home. It's about time. Can't you just screw off? Just move into a retirement home already, haha. What? You do receive pension, right? Then use that money and find a cheap retirement home. Okay, fine. It's going to be a tough time starting from tomorrow, you know. How funny. Is this old lady out of her mind? Has she gone senile? I can't stop laughing. Haha. The next day, I had my relatives come and pick me up. I couldn't move into a facility right away, so I decided to stay with them until I found a place. I felt bad for them having to put up with me, but I didn't have any other options. Even if I wanted to stay at a business hotel, my immobility made it impossible. I couldn't move around easily on my own, and I definitely needed help. My relatives gladly helped me out, and they let me stay at their place. They also helped me look for an available spot in care facilities. I contacted Hannah, who stayed back home. Being unfamiliar with phones, I slowly typed out my text. I gave Hannah instructions, and then all I had to do was wait for my move-in day. Then I found a facility that was immediately available, so I decided to move in there. It seemed rather comfortable, a nice place to spend my twilight years. Soon after, I received a message from my daughter-in-law. Hey, Granny, why are all the maids leaving? Did you tell them something funny? No, I didn't say anything funny to them. But I did tell them that they don't need to serve there. What did you say? Alicia, you thought my son was paying the housekeepers, didn't you? But actually, it was me who was paying them. What the? I have a friend who was looking for housekeepers, so I referred them there. They needed help right away, so I'm sure the housekeepers are being welcomed there. How dare you? She had always thought that my son was the one paying the housekeepers, which is why she always threatened to tell on them. My son, being a show-off, pretended that he was the one hiring them. I tried several times to tell her that I was the one paying them, but every time she would interrupt me. Every time I tried to say something, she would cut me off. Oh, about the housekeeper's hourly wage. Huh? Are you planning to raise it? That's something my husband decides. Granny, stay out of this. It's none of your business. Well, actually... Gosh, shut up! Got a problem? Never mind. Perhaps it was my fault for not speaking up, but I knew karma was going to get them one day. I always plan on getting back at my pitiful son and his nasty wife, which is why I put up with them all this time. I was honestly upset that I had to leave my house like that, but I'm over it now. In the past, people might have said it was pitiful to have an elderly person stay at a retirement home, but I think otherwise. I get to interact with people my age, and there are activities to maintain my cognitive ability and physical mobility. The food provided here is delicious, and my room is always kept clean so it's comfortable. Moreover, the facility I'm staying at is rather upscale. In fact, I've been investing since I was young, so I have plenty of money. Of course, I let them know about that as well. A few months later, I got a phone call from my son. I picked up the call, wondering what he called for. He was in a frenzy, saying that he was in a big trouble. Help me out, I'm in a real mess. What's wrong? What mess are you talking about? There are bugs everywhere. What should I do? Huh? I don't know how to take out the trash, so I left them in the house, and now bugs are swarming. Turns out my son didn't even know how to take the trash out. He's my child, but I'm truly ashamed. When my husband passed away, I was heartbroken and couldn't do anything, which is why I decided to hire housekeepers. My back was also starting to hurt. It wasn't to the point where I needed care, but I couldn't lift heavy things anymore, so I had no choice. Until then, I had been doing all the housework. My daughter-in-law had already moved in then, but she didn't help around the house at all. Laundry, dishes, I did everything, and they took that for granted. Since the housekeepers started coming, my son and his wife also expected them to do everything around the house. Even for washing a cup, they would call one of the housekeepers, yell at them, and make them do it. I tried to get my son involved in housework from elementary school, but he always complained and never did it. He never did the dishes when I asked him to, nor did he ever do the laundry. He seemed to believe that it was his parents' duty to do all the housework. And like that, he became a grown adult. When I think about how poorly I raised him, I feel like crying. I worked hard to raise him, but it didn't pay off. But I've been trying hard in my own way. That's why I'm not the only one to blame. I decided to give my own grown son a piece of my mind. I've had enough. No matter how many times I tried to teach you, you always refused, didn't you? This is why you're in such a mess. But it's pathetic. You act as though you are the one hiring the housekeepers, yet you're completely under your wife's thumb. You're so shallow. All you care about is impressing others. But what will my wife think of me if she finds out? I don't want her to think I'm a poor provider. Good grief. All my son cares about is keeping his status. He was already under his wife's thumb. I wonder what he was even trying to prove. I always thought my son was pitiful, but I never thought he was this pathetic. I felt my love for him fading at once. I might seem cold as a mother, but even us mothers are human. I can't help but be fed up with him. I hung up on my son and headed for lunch. Today's lunch looks delicious too. My mouth's already watering. Even though I'm still old, I still have a good appetite. It makes me feel like I'm still going strong. Then, as I was about to go back to my room, my daughter-in-law showed up at the facility. Found you, living in such a luxurious place. I searched high and low for you. Alicia, I won't allow you to live a rich life alone. Our house has turned into a garbage dump. What are you going to do about it? It's your fault. Even then, those housekeepers were my employees. My husband's gone, so I can recommend them to others, right? What the hell? Besides, why should I care? You guys are full-grown adults. You guys can clean up after yourselves without a housekeeper, can't you? Hey, like you're all that. She was glaring at me, but I wasn't scared of her anymore. She looked dirty and worn out, and frankly, she looked poor. She's probably exhausted from doing all the housework that she never had to before. I never wanted to be a mean mother-in-law, but I can't help but wonder how she was raised. Well, any mother-in-law would probably feel the same way if they had a daughter-in-law like her. She's just that nasty and mean-spirited. My daughter-in-law was going crazy, but a security guard kicked her out. But out of anger or something, she destroyed the flower bed outside the building. When she did that, the security guard called the police. She was arrested on the spot and taken away by the police. I'm sure she will be forced to compensate later. As expected, she was held responsible for the destruction of the flower bed. It's not like it was a big sum of money, but she is a housewife. So apparently, she asked my son for money. But my son is a miser. Even though he's been under his wife's thumb until now, he said he couldn't afford to pay her charges. And so my daughter-in-law got into a huge fight with him. I heard it from my friendly neighbor that the cops were called. They must have been wreaking havoc back at home. And since then, they had several complaints from the neighbors as their house had turned into a garbage dump. Their trash was piling up outside the house too, causing a trouble to their neighbors. There were bugs swarming everywhere, and I heard things were awful there. And finally, they had a lawsuit filed against them. The title and the land of the house were transferred to my son. I made the arrangement just before I moved into this facility. So, of course, my son was billed several $100,000. And so my son and daughter-in-law had to work hard to pay it off. Later on, my son and his wife came to see me. They said they had nowhere to go, they'd run out of savings, and had no money, so they wanted my help. Please help me. I'm your beloved only son, right? Give me some money. We're totally out of money. Please help us. We're going to end up living on the streets. Forgive us, old woman. I won't help you at all. And Alicia, if you're going to apologize, why don't you be a bit more polite? Okay, I understand. I'm sorry. Alicia's face was a mess with tears, and it was tragic. Her makeup was all smudged from crying. She was a mess. Without uttering a word, I left them and swiftly returned to my room. I wanted to sever ties with my son, so I managed to get a restraining order against them. Furthermore, I deleted both of their numbers. I had finally found a peaceful place to live, so I didn't want to be bothered by them anymore. I had no choice but to do this. Since then, according to my relatives, my son and his wife are going around begging for money. But no one wanted to deal with them, so they got shunned by everyone. Of course nobody was going to lend them any money. Apparently, they're now living in a small apartment. They got charged a hefty amount, so they're working from dawn till dusk. I imagine it won't be long before they cause problems at the apartment and get evicted. But whatever happens, it's not my problem anymore. It's none of my business, and I couldn't care less. Now I'm living a peaceful life, enjoying my days here at a retirement home. It makes me happy when Hannah, who used to work for me, comes to see me sometimes. She's still working hard, she tells me. She says she's being treated well in the wealthy home that I introduced her to. I hope to spend the rest of my life in a meaningful way.